Welcome to the 6th grade podcast. Today we're going to talk about phases of the moon. As we've done in class, we've identified the 8 phases of the moon. We're going to order the phases of the moon, and we're going to explain why the phases of the moon occur. So 2 of our first vocabulary terms that we've talked about are crescent and gibbous. With a crescent moon, we're just talking about where there's more dark than light. That means that it's not a new moon. A new moon is when it's completely dark. It has more, but it's not up to a quarter moon yet. And then gibbous, it has more light than dark. This is more than a quarter moon, but not up to a full moon yet. Then the next 2 terms that we talked about were waning and waxing. These are pretty important. On waning, it means the amount of the lit side of the moon is becoming smaller. Also, when we look at our moons, the light is on the left-hand side. And then with waxing, it's the amount of the lit side of the moon is becoming more visible. It's getting larger, and the light is on the right-hand side.
All right, so when we look at the moon, we're going to be looking at one of 8 different phases, and it's important to know that they always follow this order. It will always start with the new moon, and a new moon is no moon. We don't see any of the moon when it's in the new moon phase because it's in between the sun and the earth, so we can't see the lit up side. Ms. Canaro is going to talk more about that. Next, we have a waxing crescent. We take that term waxing, and Mr. Gornto said that the waxing means that the light side is growing. We're able to see more of the light. And crescent just simply means that we see just a little sliver of the moon. And notice as we go along in our 8 phases, the bright side is on the right side until we get to our full moon. When we get to our full moon, we go into what's called the waning phases. Now notice that the light is decreasing as we go along. The darkness is increasing. All right, so as you study, you want to find a way to remember the 8 phases of the moon and make sure that they're in the correct order. So in my mind, I kind of like to start with my full moon. I know it's not the beginning of what we normally look at, but it may be easier for some of you to start with the full moon because, you know, it's easy to recognize it's fully lit. So start with our full moon. Now on each side of the full moon, we're going to have a gibbous. Remember, a gibbous meaning that the majority of the moon is filled. On the other side of our gibbous, we're going to have a quarter. And on the other sides of our quarters, we have our crescent. Now, as you go away from the full moon, the light is either increasing or the light is decreasing. So if the light is increasing, it's waxing. If the light is decreasing, remember, that's waning. Remember, waxing and waning are actions. They are showing action. So what is the light doing? Is it increasing or is the light decreasing? If the light's increasing, it's waxing. If the light's decreasing, it's waning. For some other people, it may be easy to remember like you're holding up a mirror, say on the full moon. If you hold up the mirror and you look to the left and you look to the right, you're going to notice that they're the same image, but they're just flipped.
All right, so let's look at the more 6th grade version of this, because what you just saw was what you were supposed to remember from 4th grade. 6th grade, we look at it a different perspective. What you know of moon phases from before is what you've seen from Earth. But let's step out and look at it from outside of Earth's atmosphere, okay, where we can see the sun, the moons, and the Earth all at the same time. Okay, so the moon, like Ms. Brown was talking about, has 8 different positions. So that's what these 8 different moons here are representing. If you look at it, the sun's light is coming from this direction. And we're talking about spheres. So if the sun's light's coming from that direction, all of the spheres are going to be lit up on the right side if the sun is on the right side, which means the other half is going to be dark. The moon is always half lit and half dark. We just don't always see half lit and half dark. Depends on where we are looking at the moon from Earth. For example, if you're standing right here on Earth and you're looking at that moon, what are you going to see? You're going to see a completely dark moon. In fact, you're not going to see any moon at all, and that's going to be the new moon. All right, let's look over here. If you're staying on Earth and you're looking at this moon, what are you going to see? A completely light moon. That is the full moon. Okay? It gets a little bit more confusing when we start looking at these. Okay, if you look this way right here, you're going to see dark on the left and light on the right. Okay, dark on the left and light on the right, which is going to, oh my gosh. Okay, you're going to see dark on the left and light on the right, which is going to indicate a quarter moon. Okay, so which quarter moon is it? Well, the moon revolves around the Earth counterclockwise. That's this direction. Okay, so if we go from new moon, this one right here would be the first quarter moon that we get to, so it's going to be first quarter. Okay, what about this one? It's just going to be the opposite, right? It's going to be third quarter. So let's look at the most difficult question of moons and how to figure them out. Let's look at this one right here. Okay, if you're standing right here on Earth and you're looking at that moon, you're only going to see half of the moon. You're going to see this half over here, right? Okay, so how much of that moon is lit and how much of it's dark? Is it mostly lit or is it mostly dark? Well, it's mostly lit. What do we call a mostly lit moon? Well, that's a gibbous moon. Okay, it's a gibbous moon. So then we have to figure out, well, is it waxing or waning? Well, all you have to do is think about, okay, here's our new moon, here's our full moon. If we're going from new to full, that means we're going from completely dark to completely light. So the light must be increasing, so it must be a waxing gibbous moon. All right, let's try one more of these. Okay, let's look at this one right here. Okay, if you are on Earth and you are looking in that direction at that moon, you're going to see this half of it. You're going to see mostly light or mostly dark. Obviously, you're going to see mostly dark, right? So if it's mostly dark, it's going to be a crescent moon. Then you got to think, waxing or waning. Well, the moon revolves in this direction. So it's going from a full moon to a new moon. So if it's totally light and it's going to totally dark, it must mean that we are decreasing in our amount of light, which means it is waning. Okay, if that doesn't work for you, if you can't figure out that visually, really all you need to do is be able to find the new moon, which is always between sun and earth, and the full moon. And if you know the order, you should be able to get them all. New moon, the next phase is waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, waning crescent. So 2 ways to do it. Looking at it visually, I see this part, or finding new moon and just memorizing the order. Okay, hopefully this helps. You do have a quiz on this coming up. If you have any questions, you need to talk to one of your teachers before or after school.